Imagine this paradox. We live in a world where some people wear diamonds on their fingers, while billions of others live without clean drinking water. We send billion-dollar telescopes into orbit to capture light from galaxies that formed before Earth even existed, yet we still struggle to understand the consequences of our own actions on the one planet we call home. We measure the trembling of space-time itself caused by black holes colliding billions of light years away, yet we struggle to measure the trembling in our societies caused by inequality, ignorance, and indifference. And now, into this paradox comes a discovery so dazzling it almost sounds like myth. A planet made, quite literally, of diamonds. Not a poetic exaggeration, not a metaphor, but a real world orbiting a distant star whose chemistry suggests its crust and mantle are composed of carbon compressed into crystalline form. In other words, a diamond world. Think about that. On Earth, we've killed for diamonds. We've built empires around them, romanticized them, and overvalued them. For us, diamonds are rare, precious, symbols of permanence and love. But in the cosmos, they may exist on planetary scales, entire worlds, gleaming with what we consider priceless. The universe, it seems, does not care what we find valuable. It manufactures preciousness in bulk. And that raises a question. If diamonds cover an entire planet, are they still precious? Or is preciousness not a property of nature, but a story we invent? Here lies the first lesson in the diamond planet. Value is perspective. To us, a diamond is a miracle of pressure and time, a crystal pulled from the deep earth, polished into brilliance. To the universe, it is merely carbon, rearranged under extreme conditions. Common, inevitable, almost ordinary. The diamond planet is the cosmos holding up a mirror and asking, do you understand how small your definitions really are? But let us not dismiss the discovery as trivial. For in that shimmering planet lies both science and philosophy. Its existence tells us about the diversity of worlds, the chemistry of stars, the violence of planetary formation. It teaches us that Earth is not the template, but the exception. That our world with its oceans, continents, and breathable air is not normal, but rare. And that rarity should inspire not arrogance, but humility. Because here's the thing, a diamond planet may be beautiful in the abstract, but it is not livable. You could not walk its glittering surface without being crushed by its gravity or seared by its proximity to its star. It shines, but it does not sustain. And this too is a lesson. Beauty without habitability is spectacle, not sanctuary. So ask yourself, would you trade Earth with its forests, rivers, clouds, and fragile balance for a lifeless diamond the size of a planet? If not, then why do we treat Earth's stability as less precious than the gems we wear on our fingers? We have learned to value rarity in minerals, but not rarity in worlds. And yet, as far as we know, a world like Earth is rarer than any diamond. Now, let's consider the science for a moment. Diamond planets are not alchemy. They are chemistry. Stars, like ours, are born with particular ratios of elements. Some are rich in oxygen, others in carbon. Around oxygen-rich stars, planets like Earth form silicates, water, iron. Around carbon-rich stars, however, the story changes. Carbon becomes the dominant sculptor, graphite, carbides, and under immense pressures, diamonds. Entire mantles of them, stretching for thousands of kilometers beneath the crust. To look at such a planet is to see wealth beyond imagination. But to live on such a planet, impossible. The irony is sharp. The universe may scatter diamond worlds like pebbles across the galaxy, but only Earth, this fragile, balanced, oxygen-rich oasis, carries life. The diamond planet dazzles, but Earth sustains. And here we encounter the paradox again. We chase wealth, but neglect survival. We admire brilliance, but ignore balance. We dream of diamonds, but forget air. The cosmos is trying to tell us something. It is whispering through its diamond worlds and its vanishing rings and its swelling stars, value what sustains you, not what merely dazzles you. So when we hear that scientists have found a planet made entirely of diamonds, we should not merely gasp at its beauty. We should pause. We should reflect. We should ask ourselves, Why do we find this more astonishing than the fact that Earth, against all odds, sustains life at all? Because the true miracle is not that diamonds exist on planetary scales. The true miracle is that consciousness exists on planetary scales. That we made of stardust, carbon, and water can look out, imagine, discover, and reflect. That we can assign value, not just to minerals, but to meaning. And this, perhaps, is the most glittering truth of all. So let's linger for a moment on the science. How does an entire planet of diamonds come to be? The story begins not with the planet itself, but with the star it orbits. Stars are the great factories of the universe, and like all factories, the quality of what comes out depends on what goes in. Our sun, for example, is relatively balanced in oxygen and carbon. This balance favored silicate rocks, iron cores, and most crucially, water. That is why Earth looks the way it does, and why life here could take hold. But not all stars are like our Sunday. Some are born in clouds richer in carbon than oxygen. In such systems, the chemistry of planet building takes a different path. Instead of oxygen binding with silicon to form rocky minerals like quartz or feldspar, carbon binds under crushing pressure. Over time, entire planetary mantles may crystallize into diamond, not just gems scattered in veins underground, but worlds where carbon has hardened into planetary architecture. Think of it. A planet not with continents and oceans, but with continents of diamond, mountains of diamond, perhaps even tectonics of diamond, fractured and shifted by forces beyond imagination. And yet, if you could somehow stand there an impossible dream, you would not find paradise. The very conditions that create such a world also render it hostile. Diamond planets orbit close to their stars, where temperatures soar and atmospheres seethe. They are locked in tight orbits, their years measured not in hundreds of days, but in hours. They are worlds of fire and glitter, inhospitable jewels cast into darkness. And that is the cosmic irony. Humanity has spilled blood for diamonds, yet the universe casually sculpts entire planets from them planets, utterly useless to us, save for the lesson they carry. And here is that lesson. Rarity is not the same as value. On Earth, diamonds are rare because of geology and scarcity. But in the universe, carbon is abundant. And under the right conditions, diamonds are inevitable. What we think of as precious is only precious here, under the narrow circumstances of human culture. In cosmic terms, a diamond is just crystallized carbon as ordinary as stone. So perhaps the diamond planet is not a treasure waiting to be mined, but a reminder waiting to be understood. That value does not come from what dazzles, but from what sustains. Because let us not forget, Earth, too, was once just carbon, oxygen, silicon, iron ingredients scattered in a disk around a young star. But unlike the diamond planet, Earth struck a balance. It found water. It found stability. It found, improbably, life. And then life found awareness. Think about that. The universe can build diamonds by the planet, but as far as we know, it has built consciousness only here. The sparkle of a diamond catches the eye, but the sparkle of awareness, the ability to ask questions like these, catches the cosmos itself. So what do we value more? A world made of gemstones, or a world capable of thought, love, memory, and meaning? The diamond planet, dazzling though it is, cannot ask why it exists. It cannot gaze at the stars. It cannot compose music, or tell stories, or wonder about the future. Only Earth can do that. Only we can do that. And that makes Earth, in all its imperfection, rarer than any diamond in the galaxy. But here's where the paradox sharpens. For if Earth is rarer than a diamond, why do we treat it as though it were disposable? Why do we defend diamonds with vaults and armies, but treat forests and oceans, the real treasures, as expendable? Why do we treasure permanence in a stone, but neglect the fragility of the very systems that sustain us? This is not just a scientific question, it is a moral one. The diamond planet forces us to confront our own definitions of value and to ask, what will future generations say we treasured most? Stones or stability? Jewelry or justice? Glitter or life? The discovery of a diamond planet is not a headline about astronomy. It is a headline about us. Because here's the truth, the universe will keep building diamonds whether or not we survive. The cosmos is indifferent to our definitions of wealth. What it will not build easily, perhaps anywhere else, is a world like Earth. A world where carbon sings, where atoms think, where the universe itself can look inward and become aware. And that means the rarest jewel is not orbiting some distant star. It is already beneath our feet. For as long as humans have walked the earth, we've been dazzled by things that sparkle. Gold, gems, pearls, and above all, diamonds. Harder than any other stone, refracting light into brilliant fire, they seem like fragments of eternity that the earth allowed us to touch. Ancient cultures believed diamonds were splinters of stars, tears of gods, or shards of lightning frozen in stone. Their hardness and their clarity made them not just beautiful, but symbolic. Strength, permanence, purity. But diamonds have also carried a darker history. Empires rose and fell in pursuit of them. Wars were fought over them. Entire economies twisted around their trade. In more recent centuries, diamonds fueled colonial exploitation, labor abuses, and what came to be known as blood diamond stones purchased at the cost of human suffering. We claim they symbolize love and devotion, yet too often they were mined from rivers of violence and desperation. Now, pause. Imagine telling those same kings, generals, merchants, and lovers that while they spilled blood and built empires for a few ounces of glittering stone, the universe was casually forging whole planets made of diamonds. Not carats, not rings, not crowns, but entire worlds, glittering spheres larger than Earth itself. To the cosmos, what we found rare was never rare at all. And here lies the paradox once more. We fight wars for stones, but we ignore the soil beneath us. We hoard diamonds in vaults, but we treat breathable air as though it were infinite. We attach meaning to what glitters, but forget to protect what sustains. The discovery of a diamond planet is more than science. It's a cosmic punchline to the story of human desire. It is as though the universe is saying, what you kill each other for, I make by the planet. But the punchline carries a lesson. Because a planet of diamonds, for all its splendor, cannot feed a child. It cannot grow a forest. It cannot hold an ocean. It cannot sustain life. It is dazzling, yes, but it is barren. And that difference between dazzling and sustaining may be the most important lesson of all. Earth is not dazzling in the same way. Its surface is not covered in diamonds. Its crust is not forged entirely of carbon crystal, but it has something infinitely rarer: balance. The thin layer of atmosphere that protects us from the vacuum of space. The magnetic field that shields us from the sun's radiation. The oceans that regulate temperature. The soil that grows food. The ecosystems that weave all of it into a delicate web of life. A diamond planet is spectacle without sustenance. Earth is sustenance with meaning. Which, then, is truly the jewel. And here's where the science meets philosophy. When we discover a diamond world, our first instinct is wonder, and rightly so. But our second instinct should be humility. Because the existence of such planets reminds us that beauty without life is only half a story. The full story, the rarest story, is life that can reflect, care, and choose. Think about this. Carbon is one of the most common elements in the universe. It is forged in the hearts of dying stars, scattered across galaxies in supernova explosions. But on Earth, carbon became something more. It arranged itself into chains and rings, formed amino acids and proteins, built cells and consciousness. Here, carbon does not just glitter, it thinks. It wonders, it falls in love, it dreams. So which is more valuable? A planet of diamonds, or a planet where carbon can look up at the night sky and recognize itself in the stars? That is the real discovery. The diamond planet is not a treasure waiting to be claimed. It is a mirror, reflecting our own misplaced sense of value. It asks us, will you continue to prize what dazzles, or will you learn to protect what sustains? Because here is the truth. The cosmos keeps whispering. Earth is rarer than diamonds. And if we cannot learn to care for it, then no treasure in the galaxy will save us. When astronomers first announced the discovery of planets orbiting other stars, exoplanets, it was revolutionary. Until the 1,990 seconds, we had only one example of a planetary system, our own. The Sun, with its neat architecture of rocky worlds inside and giant gas planets outside, we thought this order might be universal, a template written across the galaxy. But the cosmos had other plans. Once we learned to detect planets around distant stars, we found them everywhere. Thousands. More planets than stars we could count. And almost immediately, they began to defy our expectations. We found hot Jupiters, giant gas worlds, the size of our Jupiter, but orbiting so close to their stars that their years last only a few days. Imagine Jupiter tucked between Mercury and the Sun, heated until its atmosphere boiled. We found super-Earths, rocky planets larger than Earth, but smaller than Neptune, worlds that do not exist in our own solar system, but seem to be common elsewhere. We found water worlds, planets likely covered entirely in deep oceans with no land at all. We found lava worlds, their surfaces molten, rivers of fire flowing under perpetual starlight. And yes, we found planets likely made of diamond, sculpted by carbon-rich chemistry in distant systems. Each discovery stretched our imagination. Each one reminded us that Earth is not the model. Earth is the exception. And here is the irony. The more bizarre planets we discover, the more special Earth becomes. Because none of those other worlds, none of the hot Jupiters, lava planets, water spheres, or diamond giants show any sign of sustaining life. They are dazzling, yes. Exotic, yes. But alive? Silent, barren, empty. Meanwhile, here we are, on a planet that seems almost unremarkable. At first glance, blue oceans, green continents, white clouds, and yet it sustains 4 billion years of unbroken life. Trillions of organisms, civilizations of thinking beings, awareness, memory, meaning the diamond planet is rare in one sense, but Earth is rare in every sense that matters. And so the question sharpens. When we marvel at other worlds, are we prepared to marvel just as deeply at our own? When we imagine traveling to diamond planets, ocean planets, lava planets, are we prepared to care for the one planet we already inhabit? When we speak of colonizing Mars, are we prepared to protect the colony of life that already thrives here, 1 billion years in the making? This is why astronomy matters. It does not just tell us what exists out there, it tells us what matters here. Every new exoplanet is not just a discovery, it is a reminder. A reminder that life is fragile, that habitability is rare, that Earth is not simply a home, it is a miracle. And perhaps that is the deeper gift of the diamond planet. It is not offering us wealth. It is offering us perspective. It is reminding us that the universe can make jewels by the planet, but only Earth has made life. So let us not mistake spectacle for sanctuary. Let us not mistake glitter for greatness. Let us not mistake rarity for value. Because if we do, then the lesson of the diamond planet will have been wasted. And yet there is hope in this. Because we are capable of learning. We are capable of reassigning value. Once, we prized stones above people. But today, more than ever, we speak of human rights, of environmental care, of global cooperation. Imperfect, yes. Incomplete, yes, but progress nonetheless. And perhaps, in time, we will learn to treasure air more than diamonds, water more than gold, forests more than oil, stability more than conquest. That, after all, is the true wealth of a species. Not what it hoards, but what it sustains. And here's the most humbling thought of all. The universe is watching. Not in a mystical sense, but in a scientific one. Every discovery we make, every planet, every star, every galaxy is a mirror. And in those mirrors, the cosmos is asking us, what will you do with this awareness? Because a diamond planet is dazzling. But Earth is alive, and the rarest gem of all is not carbon crystal. It is consciousness. Throughout history, human civilizations have been like exoplanets. Some glittered with brilliance, dazzling their neighbors and descendants with art, architecture, or wealth. Others burned hot, expanding rapidly, only to collapse under their own weight. Each one thought itself permanent, eternal, until time reminded them otherwise. Consider the ancient city of Petra, carved into rose-red cliffs. To travelers today, it dazzles like a gem, its facades radiant in the desert Sunday, but Petra is empty. Its civilization faded, its brilliance now only spectacle. A diamond planet of human history, stunning but lifeless. Or the Roman Empire, which stretched across continents, controlling millions, building aqueducts, roads, and amphitheaters that still stand. To its people, Rome must have felt like the eternal jewel of civilization. Yet Rome fractured, eroded by corruption, overreach, and neglect. The sparkle of power could not sustain stability. Rome, too, became a diamond planet dazzling in ruins, but silent in life. The Mayans mapped the heavens, calculated eclipses, and built cities in harmony with the stars. Their knowledge dazzled, their achievements immense. But their balance with nature faltered. Drought, deforestation, and strain took their toll. Cities collapsed, knowledge scattered. The brilliance remained in stone, but the life that built it was gone. Again and again, history reminds us, spectacle without sustainability does not endure. And so, when we discover a planet of diamonds, we must ask, are we building our own civilization on the same mistake? Are we dazzled by brilliance but blind to balance? Are we chasing stones while neglecting soil, water, air? Are we, like Rome or the Mayans, glittering today but fragile tomorrow? Because civilizations are not measured by their monuments, just as planets are not measured by their minerals. Civilizations are measured by what they sustain, by whether their systems endure, whether their people thrive, whether their world remains habitable for the generations to come. And here lies the real parallel between Earth and the diamond planet. Earth is not dazzling in the same way, but it sustains, it endures, it breathes, it thinks. The diamond planet teaches us that the universe can make beauty easily. But life is rare. Civilization, rarer still. Awareness, perhaps the rarest of all. So what will history say of us? Will future generations look back and see a diamond planet of their own, past dazzling in technology, but barren in wisdom? A civilization that glittered briefly, then collapsed? Or will they see a world that recognized its fragility and acted not to dazzle, but to endure? This is the real test of our age. To understand that brilliance without balance is empty, that spectacle without sustenance is fleeting, that what dazzles may impress, but what sustains is what survives. And now the story circles back to the cosmos. Because just as civilizations rise and fall, so too do stars and planets. Suns swell, rings vanish, galaxies drift apart. Impermanence is written into the very fabric of the universe. And yet within that impermanence, meaning still emerges when life recognizes fragility and chooses care. That perhaps is the rarest jewel of all. Not the diamond planet, not the empires of history, but the choice to live with responsibility. So the question returns, what do we value more, what dazzles or what sustains? Because the universe has shown us both. It has shown us diamond planets that glitter without life. It has shown us gas giants that swirl with storms the size of worlds, breathtaking but barren. It has shown us stars that burn with impossible brilliance, only to explode in fury. The cosmos is filled with spectacle, but sustenance, habitable balance, the thin margin where life can thrive that is rare. And Earth is that rarity. Not a planet of diamonds, but a planet of rivers. Not a crust of crystal, but a crust that grows food. Not a mantle of carbon, but a mantle of possibility. And unlike the diamond planet, Earth has produced something extraordinary. Life that can reflect, care, and choose. And yet, here's the paradox. We are dazzled by what glitters, but careless with what sustains. We chase wealth, but neglect water. We prize gemstones, but exploit forests. We protect jewelry in vaults, but leave the atmosphere our only shield against the vacuum of space unguarded. We cling to what dazzles, while the rarest jewel of all, Earth itself, goes underappreciated. That is why the discovery of a diamond planet matters. Not because we will ever mine it, or live upon it, or own it. It matters because it forces us to ask, if diamonds can exist by the planet, then what truly makes Earth precious? The answer is simple. Not its minerals, not its wealth, not even its beauty. What makes Earth precious is its fragility and the awareness it has produced. Nowhere else have we yet found rivers that carve valleys, clouds that paint sunsets, forests that breathe. Nowhere else have we yet found beings that tell stories, that fall in love, that wonder what will happen when the sun one day swells into a red giant. A diamond planet can sparkle, but only Earth can dream. And perhaps this is the greatest irony of all. We had to look outward across light years of space to discover a planet made of diamonds just to be reminded that the real jewel is beneath our feet, that this awareness is not small. It is civilization shaping. Because once you grasp the rarity of Earth, you realize the stakes of our choices. You realize that to neglect this world is to gamble with the only known sanctuary of life in the universe. You realize that responsibility is not optional, it is survival. And this is where the space race re-enters the story. When the Apollo astronauts looked back at Earth from the moon, they saw what no human eye had ever seen before, a blue marble suspended in darkness. They saw fragility, they saw unity. They saw not borders, not nations, not wealth, but one shimmering oasis adrift in the cosmos. That photograph, Earthrise, was worth more than any diamond, because it revealed value where we had failed to see it before. The space race was not just about reaching the moon, it was about gaining perspective. And perspective is what saves civilizations. Because now, more than ever, we face our own paradox. We dream of reaching Mars, of sending probes to exoplanets, of searching for life among the stars. But if we cannot preserve life on Earth, if we cannot care for the rarest jewel we already hold, then what right do we have to claim stewardship of others? The next space race will not be about flags and competition. It will be about responsibility. It will be about whether a species clever enough to build rockets is also wise enough to preserve rivers. Whether a species ambitious enough to reach Mars is also humble enough to care for Earth. Whether a species capable of dreaming about diamond planets is also capable of protecting the jewel it already inhabits. And so the story circles back. Diamonds are dazzling. But Earth is alive, and life, fragile, temporary, miraculous, is the rarest jewel in the universe. The cosmos is asking us a question. Will we notice? Will we care? Will we act? Because in the end, the true measure of humanity will not be whether we admired the cosmos, but whether we learned from it. Whether the diamond planet dazzled us into greed or humbled us into gratitude. Whether we treated Earth as a temporary stage or as a sacred jewel. The space race once showed us how far we could reach. The new space race must show us how deeply we can care. So what, then, is the real message of a diamond planet? Not wealth, not conquest, not greed disguised as exploration. It is perspective. The cosmos is vast enough to build diamonds by the planet, to scatter jewels across galaxies like seeds in a wind. But only Earth has taken its raw materials and written poetry. Only Earth has turned carbon not merely into crystal, but into consciousness. Into beings who can look up, imagine, and ask questions that echo across time. Why are we here? What does it mean? What will we do with this knowledge? Saturn's rings remind us that beauty is temporary. The sun reminds us that even stars swell and die. Civilizations remind us that brilliance without balance collapses. And the diamond planet reminds us that rarity is not always value. What dazzles is easy. What sustains is rare. So here we stand, at a crossroads, holding in our hands both the sparkle of knowledge and the weight of responsibility. We can choose to chase what glitters, or we can choose to preserve what sustains. The Apollo astronauts already gave us the answer, though perhaps we didn't hear it loudly enough at the time. When they looked back at Earth from the moon, they did not marvel at diamonds. They marveled at oceans, at clouds, at the thin halo of atmosphere that keeps us alive. That image, Earthrise, was humanity's first cosmic mirror. And in that mirror, we saw the rarest jewel of all. Today, we are asked to see it again. To see Earth not as permanent, not as guaranteed, not as invulnerable, but as fragile, temporary, precious. To see it as rarer than any diamond world orbiting another star. And the only question that matters is, what will we do with this awareness? Will we be dazzled into apathy, chasing brilliance while balance collapses beneath our feet? Or will we be awakened into responsibility, protecting what sustains us even when it doesn't glitter? Because in the end, meaning is not found in permanence. The sun will one day swell into a red giant. Saturn's rings will vanish. The galaxies themselves will drift apart. Impermanence is the law of the universe. But meaning is found in participation. Meaning is found in what we choose to value. Meaning is found in the decision to care, even for something fragile, even for something temporary, because its very fragility makes it precious. The space race of the 20th century proved how far we could reach. The space race of the 21st century must prove how deeply we can care. It must show that a species capable of dreaming about diamond planets is also capable of protecting the rarest jewel it already holds. So when the story of humanity is written, let it not say we mistook glitter for greatness. Let it say we learned from the stars. Let it say we chose balance over brilliance, care over conquest, wisdom over arrogance. Let it say we looked at a planet of diamonds and realized the truest jewel was Earth. Because in the end, the greatest crown humanity can wear will not be made of gemstones or monuments or empires. It will be made of awareness, of responsibility, of care. And if we choose well, if we step into this fifth dimension of awareness, then even when Saturn's rings are gone, even when the sun swells, even when our monuments crumble, the echo of our choices will ripple outward across the cosmos, like rings of meaning expanding through eternity. That is the legacy we are invited to create. That is the jewel no star can destroy. That is the diamond planet worth building. Imagine this. Somewhere in the galaxy, a planet of diamonds orbits a distant star. It glitters, it dazzles, it tempts us with the illusion of permanence and wealth, but it is lifeless, silent, empty. Now imagine this. Here on Earth, oceans breathe, forests whisper, children laugh, awareness blooms, fragility weaves itself into beauty, and though it doesn't glitter like a gemstone, Earth sustains. That is the paradox. The cosmos can make diamonds by the planet, but it cannot so easily make life. And that means the rarest jewel in the universe is not out there. It is already beneath our feet. Pause. Saturn's rings remind us that beauty fades. The sun reminds us that even stars swell and die. History reminds us that civilizations collapse when they confuse spectacle with sustenance. And the diamond planet reminds us that rarity is not always value. So the question becomes, what will we treasure most? Will we chase brilliance only to collapse like Rome, dazzling but lifeless? Or will we learn to preserve balance, fragile but sustaining? Will we be dazzled into apathy or awakened into responsibility? Let the silence stretch. Because the truth is this: permanence is impossible, but meaning is possible. Meaning is created every time we choose care over conquest, balance over brilliance, humility over arrogance. Meaning is what endures even when the stars themselves fade. And this is where the space race enters the story. The space race of the 20th century showed us how far we could reach. The space race of the 21st century must show us how deeply we can care. Apollo gave us footprints on the moon, but its greatest gift was a photograph of Earth, fragile, borderless, breathtaking. That was the first mirror the cosmos ever held to our species. And in it, we saw the rarest jewel of all. Now, as we dream of Mars, of diamond planets, of journeys to the stars, the mirror is in front of us again. And the question remains, what will we do with this awareness? If we fail, history will remember us as a glittering but barren world, a civilization that sparkled briefly, then collapsed. A diamond planet of our own making. But if we succeed, if we learn to care for this fragile Earth, then history will remember us differently, as the species that finally understood fragility, not as weakness, but as meaning. As the species that wore not a crown of diamonds, but a crown of responsibility. And that crown, unlike any jewel, cannot fade. So when the sun one day swells and Saturn's rings are gone and galaxies drift apart, the echo of our choices will remain rippling outward, like rings of meaning expanding forever into the dark. That is the jewel worth protecting. That is the diamond planet worth building. And it begins not out there, but here, with us. Now, fade to silence. Pause. Low music swells like a heartbeat. Imagine this. You are standing on Earth, looking up at the night sky. Above you are stars, billions of them. Among them, worlds unimaginable. Lava planets, ocean planets, diamond planets, each one dazzling in its own way. Each one a testament to the diversity of creation. And yet, none of them so far have given us what Earth gives us. Here, rivers carve valleys, clouds paint sunsets, forests breathe in rhythm with the wind. Here, atoms have assembled into awareness, into us. Here, the universe is not just silent, but self-aware. Beat of silence. A diamond planet dazzles, but Earth sustains. And that makes Earth rarer than all the jewels scattered across the galaxy. Music rises strings, slow, contemplative. But will we see it? That is the question. Saturn's rings are teaching us beauty is temporary. The sun is teaching us even stars must change. History is teaching us civilizations collapse when they confuse spectacle with sustenance. And the diamond planet is teaching us rarity is not the same as value. The cosmos is whispering lessons, but whispers can be ignored. So the choice is ours. Pause. Music drops softer. Will we hoard stones while our oceans warm? Will we chase brilliance while our atmosphere thins? Will we marvel at the stars while failing to preserve the jewel we already hold? Or will we awaken? Will we finally recognize fragility as meaning and impermanence as urgency? Stronger, music swell, building. Because permanence is impossible. Saturn's rings will vanish. The sun will swell. The galaxies will drift apart. The cosmos itself will fade into darkness. But meaning is possible. Meaning is created every time we choose care over conquest, balance over brilliance, responsibility over arrogance. Pause. Music halts for a breath. That is why the space race matters. The space race of the 20th century proved how far we could reach. But the space race of the 21st century must prove how deeply we can care. Apollo gave us footprints on the moon, but its greatest gift was not the footprints. It was a photograph of Earth, fragile, borderless, breathtaking, a blue marble suspended in darkness. That was the cosmos holding up a mirror, showing us the rarest jewel of all. Music swells higher, hopeful. Now, as we dream of Mars, as we imagine diamond planets, as we build telescopes to see the dawn of time itself, the mirror is before us again. And it is asking, what will you do with this awareness? If we fail, history will remember us as a glittering but barren civilization, sparkling briefly, collapsing quickly, a diamond planet of our own making. But if we succeed, if we protect this fragile world, then history will remember us as something greater. The species that finally understood fragility, not as weakness, but as meaning. The species that wore not a crown of gemstones, but a crown of responsibility. Final swell. Music soars. And that crown, unlike diamonds, cannot fade. Because even when Saturn's rings are gone, even when the sun swells into a red giant, even when galaxies drift into silence, the echo of our choices will remain rippling outward like rings on water, like whispers in eternity. That is the jewel worth protecting. That is the diamond planet worth building. And it begins not out there, but here, with us. Now, music fades into silence. Screen fades to black. Silence lingers after the final note of music fades. And maybe that's the real paradox, isn't it? That the universe is infinite in scale, yet intimate in lessons. That stars and galaxies evolve over billions of years, yet they reflect truths about the way we live right now. Take Saturn's rings. From a distance, they look eternal, flawless, unchanging, but we know better now. Cassini showed us they are fragile grain by grain, they fall, a slow rain of ice dissolving into Saturn's atmosphere. Beautiful, yes, but temporary. And isn't that us? From a distance, our cities look eternal, our monuments permanent, our systems unshakable. But up close, you see the erosion. A crack in trust here, a fracture in cooperation there, a slow unraveling that, left unchecked, can collapse the whole. Saturn's rings are not just astronomy, they are metaphor. They are a warning written in ice across the night sky. Then there's the Sunday. To us, it feels constant. It rises every day without fail, warms us without asking for thanks, sustains us without condition. Yet physics tells a different story. One day, it will swell into a red giant, burn away what we know, erase everything we assume permanent. The sun, too, is a teacher. Constancy is not forever. And the most dangerous illusion is permanence. And now this diamond planet, a world that glitters with everything we consider rare and precious, yet offers no water, no air, no life. It dazzles, but it cannot sustain. All of them Saturn's rings, the sun, the diamond planet, are cosmic parables. They are reminders, scattered across the universe, waiting for us to notice. Lessons in fragility, leçons in impermanence, leçons in perspective. But here's the part that humbles me most. The universe didn't design these lessons for us. Saturn's rings are not crumbling to make a point. The sun will not swell for our enlightenment. The diamond planet does not glitter to teach us humility. These things just are. Physics doesn't care. Chemistry doesn't care. The cosmos is indifferent. And yet, here we are. Beings of stardust who can care, who can look at the silent indifference of the universe and draw meaning from it. Who can take the raw facts of nature and turn them into philosophy, responsibility, and choice? Think about that. Carbon became diamond on one world, but carbon became consciousness here. One sparkled in silence. The other asks, what is the meaning of sparkle? Which of those is rarer? Which of those is more miraculous? This is why science matters. It is not cold, it is not distant, it is the most human of endeavors because it gives us perspective. It shows us that beauty is fragile, that permanence is an illusion, that our world is rare, not because it glitters, but because it sustains. And with that awareness comes the heaviest responsibility of all. Pause. Let the thought hang. So now the mirror is before us again. Not Saturn, not the Sunday, not the diamond planet, but Earth. And the question we face is not scientific, but moral. What will we do with this awareness? If history has taught us anything, it's that civilizations collapse when they confuse spectacle with sustenance. If astronomy has taught us anything, it's that even the grandest structures of the cosmos are temporary. And if philosophy has taught us anything, it's that meaning is not found in permanence, but in participation. So what will be our choice? To dazzle and collapse like a diamond planet, lifeless in its brilliance? Or to sustain and endure like Earth, fragile but alive? The space race of the last century gave us perspective. The space race of this century must give us responsibility. Because if we fail to protect the rarest jewel we already hold, then no planet of diamonds will redeem us. The music settles, softer now, almost like a heartbeat in the background. When we speak of legacy, we often imagine monuments, pyramids, cathedrals, skyscrapers. things built from stone and steel to withstand time. We imagine permanence as glory. But history has a cruel way of reminding us otherwise. The pyramids stand. Yes, but the civilization that raised them is long gone. Rome's Colosseum endures, but not Rome. The Library of Alexandria once housed the wisdom of the ancient world. Today, it is ash. Permanence is a story we tell ourselves until entropy writes a different ending. And now, we discover a planet made of diamonds, seemingly the most permanent of all things. And yet, even that planet, too, will not last forever. Stars swell. Planets are torn apart. Galaxies drift and die. Even diamonds, given enough time, will crumble into dust. So what then is legacy, if nothing lasts? Legacy is not stone. It is not monuments. It is not jewels. Legacy is impact. Legacy is choice. Legacy is meaning carried forward. When we look at Earth, we are looking at the legacy of stars. Stars that lived and died billions of years ago. They left no monuments, no cathedrals, no crowns. They left carbon, oxygen, iron ingredients that formed Earth and us. Their legacy is not permanence. It is participation. They participated in the cycle of the cosmos, and out of that came life. Out of that came awareness. So what will our legacy be? Will it be skyscrapers that crumble? Wars fought over stones? Or will it be the choice to recognize fragility as sacred and impermanence as urgent? Will it be the choice to preserve this thin, shimmering oasis called Earth, not because it will last forever, but because its very fragility makes it precious now? Pausa. The diamond planet dazzles, but Earth breathes. Saturn's rings shimmer, but Earth sings. The sun sustains, but Earth chooses. That perhaps is the most miraculous fact of all. Earth chooses, or more precisely, we choose. We tiny creatures of dust and water are the first species, as far as we know, to look at the stars and ask what they mean. The first to look at the fragility of our world and decide whether to protect it or to waste it. The cosmos does not choose. The cosmos simply is. Stars burn. Rings collapse. Diamonds glitter. Planets orbit. No choice, no meaning, no care. But we choose. And that means we bear a responsibility as heavy as any crown and as fragile as any ring of ice. Music shifts more urgent now because the crises we face today do not wait for Saturn's rings to vanish or for the sun to swell. They are here. Now, the climate is changing. The glaciers are melting. The oceans are acidifying. The forests are burning. The balance is unraveling, not tomorrow, not a billion years from now, but in our own lifetime. We are standing at our own diamond planet moment. We can dazzle ourselves with technology, wealth, and distraction, or we can sustain ourselves with responsibility, humility, and care. We can collapse like Rome, or we can endure like Earth has endured, fragile, imperfect, but alive. And here is where the space race returns, not as history, but as prophecy. The Apollo program was not just rockets and engineering, it was a rehearsal, a demonstration of what humanity can do when it reaches beyond survival and embraces imagination. Apollo gave us footprints on the moon, but more importantly, it gave us perspective. It reminded us that Earth is small, delicate, finite, and shared. The new space race, our return to the moon, our dreams of Mars, our telescopes gazing at exoplanets, must give us more than perspective. It must give us responsibility. It must prove that we are not just clever enough to reach the stars, but wise enough to protect the home that launched us. Because here's the truth. If we cannot care for Earth, we will never care for Mars. If we cannot sustain what we already have, we will never sustain what we hope to build. Exploration without preservation is spectacle. Exploration with preservation is legacy. So let us decide here and now what our legacy will be. Will we be a civilization that mistook glitter for greatness, collapsing under its own brilliance? Or will we be the civilization that learned from Saturn's rings, from the sun's impermanence, from the diamond planet's irony, and chose to protect the rarest jewel of all. The music swells again, rising toward its final movement. Because in the end, the universe is not asking us to last forever. It is asking us to choose what matters, to choose what endures, to choose to turn fragility into meaning, impermanence into urgency, and awareness into action. That is the legacy worth leaving. That is the jewel no star can destroy. That is the diamond planet worth building. Music swells slow strings, deep, resonant. So what is the legacy of a planet made of diamonds? Not wealth, not conquest, not ownership. It is perspective. It is the reminder that the universe can build jewels by the planet, scatter them like seeds across the stars, and yet none of them breathe, none of them laugh, none of them ask why they exist. Earth does. Earth is the rarest jewel, not because it glitters, but because it sustains. Not because it dazzles, but because it dreams. Pause. Music softens, a single piano note carrying the silence. Saturn's rings are teaching us. Beauty is fragile. The sun is teaching us permanence is an illusion. History is teaching us. Civilizations collapse when they confuse brilliance with balance. And the diamond planet is teaching us rarity is not the same as value. The cosmos has already written its lessons in the sky. The only question left is whether we will read them. Music rises steady, climbing. We can be dazzled into apathy. We can chase brilliance while balance collapses. We can be remembered as a civilization that sparkled briefly, then vanished a diamond planet of our own making. Or we can awaken. We can recognize fragility as sacred, impermanence as urgent, and awareness as responsibility. We can choose to care not because Earth is permanent, but because it is precious. Not because it will last forever, but because it won't. Pause. Strings intensify. That is why the space race matters. Not for flags, not for rivalry, but for perspective. Apollo gave us footprints on the moon, but its greatest gift was a photograph of Earth, a fragile blue marble suspended in blackness, a jewel rarer than diamonds, a mirror. And now, as we dream of Mars, of exoplanets, of diamond worlds orbiting distant suns, the mirror is before us again. And it is asking, what will you do with this awareness? The music swells into its final crescendo. Because the sun will one day swell, Saturn's rings will vanish, the galaxies will drift apart. Permanence is impossible. But meaning is possible. Meaning is created every time we choose care over conquest, balance over brilliance, humility over arrogance. And if we choose well, then even when the stars fade, the echo of our choices will ripple outward, like rings expanding across eternity. That is the jewel worth protecting. That is the diamond planet worth building. And it begins not out there, among the stars, but here, with us. Now, music fades, screen fades to black. Silence.